How many people do you know who are actually millionaires? That is, $1 million worth of assets. Many people get there by their 60s, their retirement age, but very few accomplish it by their 20s. Melanie Bajrovic is one of those exceptions. In her book, The Wealthy Barmaid, she writes about building $1 million real estate portfolio by the time she reached 27. And she joins us here this afternoon. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Now, your number one advice of all is that real estate gives you the best return on investment. Now, why is that?
Absolutely. I think real estate is the safest, most reliable, most profitable investment out there. But many people have misconceptions that they need a ton of money to get involved, or that, it's for the select few, or that you need a trust fund in order to get started. But it's such a misconception. I was just a bartender,
right,
and I was able to amass a multi-million-dollar portfolio at such a young age, thanks to real estate.
And when did you start?
I was 22 years old when I made my first investment. Rental property, long-term buy and holds are my favorite strategy.
Yeah. How did you manage that while you're tending bar?
Well, it was just really about learning the ins and outs of how to be a great landlord, it's really about relationships. So when you have tenants, you just treat them as you would wish to be treated yourself. And whenever there are any issues, you set systems in place prior, so you don't go scrambling around when, you have a plumbing problem or a leak or something like that. And when you have people in place, it's really simple. You just make a few calls and you can handle anything. How
did you manage the down payment to begin with, though? Because you're basically working for minimum wage plus tips, right?
Yeah, well, I started really young. My parents had a restaurant, and at 12 years old, I started working in the kitchen, and then I went to bussing and hostessing, serving and bartending. So I did that for about 15 years, all the while saving as much as I possibly could in order to begin investing. And it was the best decision I ever made when I was 22.
What about personal sacrifice, though? How often did you have to cut corners and say no to people who wanted to go to the bar with you or go out to a movie or whatever the case is?
Absolutely. There was a ton of that growing up, and I worked most nights, and including all the while I was going to school. But there were events I had to miss, Halloween, St. Patrick's Day, all these things where everybody's out partying. I elected to work. I mean, I wanted so badly, I was so ambitious, and I wanted to see, what options were out there for me, how successful I could become, by when, and just see the world of opportunities out there. And I'm glad I sacrificed then, because now I can live how I do now. Being financially free, especially when you're young, is what we're all after, isn't it?
So what is life for you like now? You're in your early 30s.
Yes. It's absolutely amazing. I never imagined that real estate would provide me what it has thus far. I'm able to travel the world whenever I want. I can live in multiple countries a year. All the while, I'm generating passive income from my investments, and I'm able to manage my portfolio from abroad as well. Again, putting those systems in place makes everything simple, and it's really passive.
I wonder, though, is there a timing issue here, in that your timing was very good? Now, for example, if somebody invested in real estate in, say, 2007, just before the market crashed 2008, 2009, it might be a different story for them, right?
Absolutely, but really what it all boils down to, the issue is just being educated in the real estate market, knowing, there are people making money in every single market, right? All across the country, all across the globe. So it's really just about knowing a little bit about real estate, investing. Yes, timing can make you a lot more money than others, but there are ways to protect yourself as well.
You do have other investments?
I invest in single-family homes as well as commercial property, and I run a business back home in St. Catharines.
Okay, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Anytime, it's a pleasure.
And Melanie's new book is The Wealthy Barmaid. You could also find her. There's her website right there. Also, you can track her down on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
All right, thanks, guys. Speaking of bars, makes you wonder if they might open some